And welcome to Fantastic Fungi Reimagine Live Music Events. I'm Marcina Hale from Reconsider. And tonight we have a very special guest from Rising Appalachia, which is Leah Song, is going to be joining us. Leah. And this is an opportunity for us to take different artists that have been giving their time and energy in song to an album of Reimagine, which is inspired by both the film Fantastic Fungi and the mycelial world. And Leah, you got a chance to see the movie lately, right?
I did. We had a screening of it down here where I've been residing for the last 8 months in Central Highland, Costa Rica. And we did a screening of the film, which was really, really beautiful to see it on a big screen and to kind of have a crew of radical plant people around to analyze it all.
That's amazing. So did you watch it outside or inside?
We kind of watched it honestly in like a half. It was half of the buildings here are usually exposed, so we were tucked into a rainstorm, but it's an open space, like the owls can fly through and the hummingbirds can fly through. And
oh, that's beautiful. And you actually came into joining the album before you even saw the film. But there's a certain person that kind of brought you into this album, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that our music has been both inspired by and uplifted by the kind of radical rewilding community for many, many, many years. So it feels par and parcel.
Yeah. And the song that you actually brought to the album was an Appalachian folk song, is that right?
There's a couple of our songs on there. You'll have to tell me which one you're referring to.
Well, actually, it's the I Believe in Being Ready, which is one of my favorite songs.
Yeah, that is an old traditional kind of like Southern Appalachian gospel song that we revisited and reworked to really feel like it tells more of a story of contemporary culture, and then represented it to the world. So it's got its roots in Southern Appalachian folklore, and then I play a big Irish drum on that one. And like most of the folk music that we work with, we adapt and adopt it to kind of tell the story of where we are now.
And it's interesting that it's coming out. Like for me right now, when that song plays, and being in this time of COVID, in this world that we're in right now, it plays very differently for me than when I first heard it.
I know.
Isn't it?
Yeah. When COVID first hit, we had so many people write us and say, these songs are taking really different meanings, which is an honor and also kind of terrifying that we made apocalyptic music, like accidentally. It's a little doomsday-y, and we've got a lot of those songs, but that's folk music for you.
Well, you could think of also it's more like transformational. It's almost like this feeling like the feeling sort of I was thinking about when I was so connected with it is, what am I ready for?
Nice. I like that.
And I had a really interesting feeling for that. Like there is something I'm ready for a change.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. We have several in that department of just like moving in the hard work of change making, and that it can be uncomfortable.
Yeah. And for us in doing the album, and even the name Reimagine was about being able to go through that transformative process. Reimagine. And one of the things we always talked about is how important songs are and how important the arts are. And could you tell me a little bit like what your connections with that and your feelings about that are during this time in particular?
The just sort of the role of the arts.
Sure.
Yeah, I feel like Well, like I was saying earlier, our relationship, we were just talking about this today. When I walked down to the gardens with my dear friend who's downstairs, and we were talking about how the artists really need the land-based and the plant-based people, and the plant and farmer community really need the artists, because we
Mhm.
kind of pollinate in different ways. And I think artists' role has always been a little bit of the canary in the coal mine, where
Mhm.
oftentimes we're writing or singing or creating poetry or novels around something that feels impending, where culture feels thin and tender and upsetting, and can really, I think the art really can highlight those places of discomfort, and also the catharsis, the places of joy and beauty. And I think obviously in challenging times that feels even more purposeful in a way, and I
Mhm.
feel more connected to that sort of dire need for the celebratory quality and the creative quality uh, that is sometimes it's a little bit more nebulous than our rational minds can look at. And I think that's the power of the arts as well, is like right now it's too complicated to make sense of. Sometimes
Mhm.
we need the balm of creativity, which is an ancient practice to kind of
Mhm.
get us through hardship.
Well, that kind of leads me into in the album, the proceeds are going to be going to help educate people about the benefits of the work of psychedelic and the medicines that way. And, it reminds me of that because, with some of the artists on there, we've already talked about East Forest and so forth as about, music being medicine. And medicine is in the psychedelic way, it's instead of it creating an opportunity to take something away, it actually allows us to get us through something. And music is a big part of those journeys often.
Mm,
They're
yeah.
part of helping to lead people through something rather than take something away from them.
Mm. Yeah, I've also felt since I'm not in my home country,
Mm,
I think it's been really inspiring to me to look at the research and the conversations that have come out of this film and this work, and really feel kind of a sense of pride around what's going on in the United
yeah.
States and abroad as well, but like where the cutting edge conversations are with these forms of medicine, and these
Mhm,
forms of tools and resources and trauma therapy, and
mhm,
just really understanding how much access we have to some really, really powerful tools of wellness, and how much we need that across the board. And I felt quite proud of, you know, a lot of the communities I feel really close to in watching this film, and also just knowing the underground research that is going on to put this on the map.
mhm. Yeah, it is. I mean, the outpouring of just like support in so many ways, and obviously the field is just growing like at incredible rates right now. And it's interesting because you were talking about trauma. And when we look, I'm actually a therapist and psychedelic therapist as well. So I'm kind of speaking to this in a way that is very passionate for me. When you look at artists, um, it hasn't been the arts and artists haven't been a population that has been well um, respected or cared for or
Mm,
valued so many ways that for their energy. And there's a lot of trauma that I know that the different artists have talked about that that they work with and being able to work with their music. Are you familiar with any of that in what you see?
in I mean, I've worked for a lot of my sort of side project work has been around wellness and radical healing and trauma therapy, and we've done a lot of work in we've done some work in prison restoration, and we've played some concerts in prison work. But like I said, we've also worked really, really closely with a lot of radical healers, and just understanding at a baseline, a lot of modern people have symptoms of trauma, symptoms of depression, symptoms of adrenal fatigue, and that's unfortunately a really common template. And I think Rising Appalachia is very committed to our music being in service to the collective good and understanding how to kind of weave it into a lot of different healing and radical therapy modalities, and understanding a lot of people are doing that work, and how inspiring it is to kind of collaborate with specialists and medicine keepers and tradition holders and trauma therapists. And so it's like a side love of ours.
Mm.
We never set out to be rock stars in any capacity. In fact, the lifestyle of touring is exhausting and has been really hard for us. But I think the relationship between art and healing and just all the conversations around catharsis have been really what have continued bringing us to the table, and committing to the work.
Yeah. And you and your sister are both big activists in many different ways. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm really the whole band. We're a 6-piece, and somehow every one of us has come into the project with our own leaning around service. I think is the word I would use. So our guitar player has done a lot in the permaculture and rewilding movement. Our drummer has done a lot of work around natural building and a lot around youth education. And everyone in the project has their own relationship with trying to spin this top of a world in a different direction. And I think that's what's kept us together, because there's no big rock star ego in the project. We're all like, how can we stick with a bigger mission here,
Yeah. And there's, one of the things that in a conversation earlier today that people were having about this period of time, somebody brought up the idea of activism, because they use the word activism, and the anger that's coming up in people.
Yeah.
And how do you navigate that in the way that you bring things into the world?
Yeah. I think everything has a chapter. And I was a young, angry activist also. I had that chapter. I was frontline protesting and painting signs and angry and hostile. And we wrote songs that were aggressive. And that was a chapter. And in a way, it was an empowering chapter in its own right. So, I think it's important to hold space for anger. And I also feel like personally, and also in this time frame, I am overwhelmed as well by the amount of aggression and the amount of hostility. And I think for me and for our project, we have decided, and it's been our own arc of many, many years of touring and many years of walking the line of activism, that we want to be a solution-based project. And that's our choice. And other people take other routes, and that we have worked really hard to not be thrown off of our mission or off of our course by a lot of the different heated moments and hostile debates, and just held a strong center that we want to provide solutions, and that's the route we're going to take, and do everything we can to have those conversations, to hold those spaces, and to not necessarily enter the fight with aggression, but enter it with solutions. And that has been really rewarding for us, and I think also has allowed us a way to have a voice in activist movements without feeling like we get torn in all the directions that you can get torn. And that doesn't mean that it's worked for everybody, or that all of our community has been able to align with all of the stances that we've taken, but that has been our tool, and it's worked for us to stay at the table. We have just decided collectively, no matter where it goes, we are going to try and use our platform to highlight solutions, especially because the media is full of the worst of the worst of the worst of the worst. And so we need places where we can find solutions, and we need people that we can depend on to show them. So we try and use our space, our voice, and our platform to find projects and inspiring people and communities that are bringing solutions, however small or large, and talk about those, and write about those and sing about those.
And that leads us into the song, your second song of the album, which we're going to go to, called Resilient.
Yeah.
Trust the movement, I negate the chaos, uplift the negative. I'll show up at the table again and again and again. I'll close my mouth and learn to listen. Whoa, 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 yeah. Whoa, 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 yeah. These times are poignant, the winds have shifted. It's all we can do to stay uplifted. Pipelines through backyards, wolves howling out front. Yeah, I've got my crew, but truth is what I want. Realigned and on point, power to the peaceful, prayers to the waters, women at the center. All vessels open to give and receive. Let's see the system brought down to its knees. Whoa, 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 yeah. Whoa, 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 ooh, I'm made of thunder, I'm made of lightning, I'm made of dirt, yeah, made of the fine things. My father taught me that I'm a speck of dust and this world was made for me. So let's go and try our luck, say. I got my roots down, 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 down deep. I got my roots down, 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 down deep. I am resilient, I trust the movement, I negate the chaos, uplift the negative. I'll show up at the table again and again and again. I'll close my mouth and learn to listen.
Oh, love that one.
Yay.
The album is doing so well out there, and I really do think that one of the things that people find just so powerful is how the songs come together. And it kind of just reminds me of nature itself, like in the mycorrhizal mushrooms and mycelium that need each other and that pull from each other. And there's so much. I'm grateful that you joined the album. And that was your sister, right?
Yeah, that's my beautiful sister. I have not seen her in so long, and we've just been doing those collaborative Zoom songs, which is the new way. It's cool to be able to make music together, but we miss each other a lot.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for joining us. Thank you for being a part of the album, and have a great time. And let's see what we can create.
Thank you so much for your work,
Thank you.
for bringing our music in, and for all of the powerful research and radical plant people that are coming to the forefront and really coming, I think, to this planet's rescue. So Thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yay.